The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as High Elder Jax tapped his ceremonial staff 3 times on the polished floor. Representatives from over 200 star systems leaned forward in their seats. On the massive display screen before them floated a small blue planet. Earth, Jax announced, his voice echoing through the hall. A backwater world in an unremarkable solar system. Primitive technology, divided leadership, but extraordinarily rich in resources. Commander Dorn of the Arcturus fleet stood next to the display, his scaled skin reflecting the blue light of the projected Earth. The natives call themselves humans. They've barely managed interplanetary travel. Their weapons are crude, their defenses negligible. A ripple of dismissive laughter spread through the chamber. Yet reports indicate unusual amounts of rare minerals, continued Dorn. And their biosphere contains unique organic compounds valuable to our medical research. What do you propose? Asked Jax. Dorn smiled, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Standard procedure, a show of force to demonstrate our superiority, followed by terms of surrender. They'll be mining resources for us within 1 local month. 3 days later, the sky above Earth's major cities darkened as massive ships entered the atmosphere. There was no warning, no attempt at communication. The first plasma strikes hit military bases around the world, followed by government centers. Admiral James Reed stood on the smoking ruins of the Pentagon, his face streaked with ash and blood. Around him, survivors dug through rubble, pulling out the injured. In the distance, alien ships hovered over Washington, D.C., their weapons silent for now. Sir, a young officer approached, her uniform torn and dirty. We've lost contact with Pacific Command. Europe reports similar attacks. It's happening globally. Reed nodded grimly. And our counterattack. Our missiles never reached their targets. Something disabled them mid-flight. The officer's voice shook slightly. The president is secure in Bunker 9. He's asking for options. Reed looked up at the alien ships, his eyes narrowing. Tell him we need time. And tell General Martinez to activate Protocol Omega immediately. That evening, the aliens broadcast their message worldwide. A tall, imposing figure appeared on every working screen. People of Earth, Commander Dorn announced, your planet is now under the protection of the Galactic Council. Resistance has proven futile. Your military capabilities are no match for our technology. Submit to our authority, and you will be treated fairly. Continue to resist, and we will be forced to take harsher measures. In underground bunkers across the planet, military and scientific leaders gathered to assess the situation. Admiral Reed stood before a room of grim-faced officers in the heart of a mountain complex. They think we're beaten, he said, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. They expect us to surrender because they destroyed a few buildings and disabled our conventional weapons. He pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared, showing schematics that few in the room had ever seen before. For 30 years, we've been preparing for this possibility. Since the first alien signals were detected in the 1990s, the world's governments have secretly been developing technologies based on what we could learn from monitoring their communications. Murmurs of surprise filled the room. They think they know what we're capable of, Reed continued. They have no idea what humanity can do when backed into a corner. He walked around the table, making eye contact with each person present. They came here expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they've awakened something they don't understand. Our response will not be what they predict. Our methods will not follow their rules of engagement. Reed's face hardened into a mask of determination. They wanted Earth's resources. What they'll get is Earth's revenge. Commander Dorn stood before the Galactic Council's emergency session, his posture proud despite the bandage on his arm. The human surrender proceeds as expected, he reported. Their leaders have gone into hiding, but their military bases are destroyed. We've begun resource extraction in their Africa region. High Elder Jax nodded with satisfaction. Any further resistance? Minor skirmishes only, Dorn replied. Nothing our patrols can't handle. These humans break easily. 300 feet below the Rocky Mountains, Colonel Maria Torres moved through a bustling underground complex that didn't officially exist. Scientists and soldiers worked side by side at stations, filled with both familiar and distinctly alien-looking technology. Status report, Torres demanded as she entered the central command room. Dr. Alan Parker looked up from his console, dark circles under his eyes. Project Phoenix is at 87% readiness. We've integrated the final components based on the scans of their ships. Torres studied the massive screens showing alien patrol patterns, and they have no idea we're here. Their scanners can't penetrate this deep, Parker assured her. Plus, the shielding we developed from their own technology makes us invisible to their sensors. Torres nodded grimly. How long until we're ready? 24 hours for a full deployment, but we can launch a test strike sooner. Do it, Torres ordered. Tonight, target their mining operation in Congo. Let's see how our toys perform against the real thing. As darkness fell over Central Africa, alien workers supervised massive excavators stripping the earth of rare minerals. The alien overseer, Krell, monitored production numbers with satisfaction. These humans were proving to be compliant workers once their military was crushed. A low rumble caught his attention. Krell looked up, expecting to see one of their own transport ships. Instead, 3 unmarked black aircraft streaked across the sky. Impossible, he whispered, reaching for his communication device. Before he could activate it, the lead aircraft fired something that wasn't a conventional missile. It emitted no heat signature, no radar profile. The projectile struck the alien command center and exploded in a burst of purple energy. Alien shields, designed to stop plasma weapons and nuclear blasts, failed instantly. Their technology, considered unbeatable, crumbled under an attack that somehow used their own energy patterns against them. In the command bunker, Torres and her team watched the live feed with intense focus. Direct hit, reported the weapons officer. Their shields collapsed exactly as predicted. Parker stared at the readings in amazement. The reverse-engineered pulse weapon worked even better than our simulations suggested. Torres allowed herself a small smile. Send the data to all Phoenix sites and prepare the main strike force. 2 days later, Admiral Reed addressed the gathered commanders of humanity's hidden resistance. The test strike was successful beyond our expectations, he announced. Thanks to decades of secretly studying their transmissions, we developed weapons specifically designed to counter their technology. He activated a holographic map showing alien positions around the globe. For 30 years, every major nation has contributed to Project Phoenix in secret. While we built our regular armies in public, we developed these specialized forces in the shadows. The aliens judged us by what we showed the world, not by what we kept hidden. Reed zoomed in on key alien installations. Our advantage is temporary. Once they realize what we've done, they'll adapt. But we don't need long. Phase 1 begins in 6 hours. Simultaneous strikes on all their command centers. By this time tomorrow, we'll have captured enough of their technology to launch Phase 2. Around the world, in hidden bunkers and mountain fortresses, humanity's secret weapons were being prepared. Soldiers trained for decades for this moment loaded into stealth craft. Scientists made final adjustments to technology reverse-engineered from centuries of intercepted alien communications. The aliens had expected an easy conquest. They thought they were facing a primitive species armed with rockets and tanks. They were about to discover how dangerously wrong they were. The Galactic Council's emergency chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other as Commander Dorn tried to maintain order. Silence, roared High Elder Jax, slamming his staff. The noise died instantly. Commander, explain how primitives have destroyed 7 of our command centers in a single day. Dorn's scales had paled to a sickly gray. The humans, they're using weapons we've never seen before. Somehow they've created technology that targets the specific frequency of our shield generators. Impossible, hissed a counselor. Their civilization is barely 1,000 years old. Yet it is happening. Dorn replied grimly. And there's more. They're not just destroying our facilities. They're capturing them. They're taking our technology. On the outskirts of what had been Beijing, Admiral Reed walked through the captured alien command center. Bodies of the invaders lay where they had fallen, their weapons and technology now in human hands. Remarkable, said Dr. Thomas Walker, examining the alien power core. Their energy system is based on principles we theorized, but couldn't implement with our previous technology. Reed nodded. How quickly can you adapt it? That's the thing, Walker said, excitement breaking through his exhaustion. I don't need to adapt it. Look at this. He pointed to markings inside the panel. These connection points were designed for compatibility with multiple systems. They built their technology to be modular across different species tech. They never imagined we'd be the ones connecting to it, Reed said with grim satisfaction. Exactly. Their arrogance is our advantage. I've already identified a critical weakness in their ship propulsion systems. The energy patterns fluctuate in a predictable sequence. If we can disrupt that sequence, their ships would be stranded. Reed finished. Get your team on it immediately. 3 days later, the alien fleet above North America suddenly dropped from the sky. Massive ships, once hovering menacingly over cities, crashed into unpopulated areas, their descent controlled just enough to avoid civilian casualties. In the Galactic Council chamber, the mood had shifted from shock to fear. How? Demanded Jax. How do they disable an entire fleet? Fleet Admiral Gorv, newly arrived from the Empire's capital, stepped forward. Something is different about these humans. Most species we encounter follow predictable patterns of development. Their technology evolves along standard paths we've seen thousands of times. He activated a display showing human forces adapting alien weapons to their own vehicles. But these humans, they're innovating at an impossible rate. They're taking our technology and not just using it. They're improving it, combining it with their own in ways we never considered. But they're so young, protested a council member. Their civilization is barely developed. That may be their strength, Gorv replied thoughtfully. They haven't had time to become set in their thinking. Their adaptability is unlike anything we've encountered. On Earth, Colonel Torres led a strike team into an alien manufacturing facility. Unlike previous missions, they met minimal resistance. Most aliens surrendered immediately upon seeing the humans' weapons. They're learning to fear us, said her lieutenant as they secured the facility. Torres nodded. Fear is good, but I want more than fear. I want them to regret ever looking at our planet. In his underground command center, Admiral Reed received reports from around the globe. Human forces had reclaimed territories across 6 continents. Alien occupiers were retreating to their remaining strongholds. We've turned the tide, said his strategic officer, but they still have reinforcements in orbit. Reed studied the tactical display. Not for long. Dr. Walker's team has modified our captured ships. It's time to take this fight beyond Earth. He addressed the assembled commanders, their faces showing the strain of battle, but also newfound confidence. 2 weeks ago, they thought us primitive and helpless. Today, we've driven them from our cities. Tomorrow, we take the battle to the stars. Reed's eyes narrowed as he looked at the orbital display. The Galactic Council thought they knew what humans were capable of. They're about to learn how wrong they were. The Grand Council chamber had never witnessed such division. What began as a routine conquest had fractured the unity of the interstellar government that had stood for 12,000 years. We must send our entire fleet, shouted Councillor Verix, his tentacles writhing in agitation. Crush these humans before they become a greater threat. And waste more ships, countered Councillor Mira, her crystalline form glittering under the chamber lights. We've already lost a third of our invasion force to a species that barely has space travel. High Elder Jax watched the argument with growing concern. The Galactic Council rarely faced serious opposition. Their technological superiority had allowed them to absorb or subjugate hundreds of planets with minimal losses. Earth was supposed to be an easy conquest. Ambassador Krell sat silently at the edge of the chamber, troubled by memories of the reports he had read. Unlike most council members, he had studied human history before the invasion. Their capacity for both cruelty and compassion had fascinated him. Their resilience worried him. As the debate raged, Krell slipped away unnoticed. 3 hours later, in a secure communication room, Krell activated an untraceable channel. The face that appeared on his screen was human. Admiral Reed. "You received my message," Krell said, his translator converting his natural clicks and whistles into English. Reed's expression remained neutral. "You claim to be a council member who opposed the invasion. Why should I believe you?" "Because I'm risking execution by contacting you," Krell replied simply, "and because I can give you the access codes to our orbital defense network." Reed studied the alien carefully. "What do you want in return?" Not all species in the Council wanted this war. Many of us advocated for peaceful contact. We were overruled by the military faction. Krell leaned closer to the screen. "I want to help end this conflict before both sides suffer irreparable harm." On Earth, a hidden mountain base had been converted into an impromptu diplomatic chamber. Ambassador Krell's shuttle had landed under heavy guard, his arrival kept secret from even most human military leaders. Colonel Torres watched the alien warily, her hand never far from her weapon. "I still think this could be a trap, Admiral." Reed nodded. "Possibly, but the information he provided about their fleet movements checked out. We were able to capture 3 supply ships because of it." Dr. Walker entered with a tablet displaying complex schematics. "The defense codes work as well. We now have access to their entire orbital security grid." Krell stood as the humans approached. "The Council is divided on how to proceed. The military faction wants to escalate, but others are arguing for withdrawal." "Why would anyone support us?" Torres asked skeptically. "Not all species join the Council willingly," Krell explained. "Many of us were once in your position. Some still resent the protection forced upon us." His large eyes blinked slowly. "Your resistance has inspired those who wish to reform the Council, to end its policy of conquest." Reed considered this. "How many support your faction?" "Nearly 40% of the Council. Not enough to stop the invasion, but enough to cause significant disruption if organized properly." In the following days, a dangerous dance began. Krell secretly connected human leaders with sympathetic Council members. Information flowed both ways, the Allies providing crucial intelligence about Council weaknesses, while humans shared their innovative adaptations of alien technology. On a secure channel, Mira addressed a joint human-alien committee. "The military faction is planning a major assault on your moon base. They believe destroying it will break human morale." Reed smiled grimly. "Let them try. We've prepared a special welcome." As plans formed, Dr. Walker worked closely with Krell's scientific advisors, combining their knowledge to create defensive systems unlike anything either species had developed alone. "It's remarkable," Walker told Reed later. "Their theoretical knowledge is vast, but they've become rigid in application. Our human creativity combined with their advanced science is producing technologies neither would have developed independently." Reed looked at the star map showing Council fleet positions. "How long before we can take the fight directly to them?" 2 weeks, Walker replied. "Maybe less." In the shadows of the Council chamber, Krell met secretly with his allies. "The humans are far more dangerous than we anticipated," he told them. "Not because of their technology, but because of their nature. When threatened, they don't surrender. They evolve." The moon's surface, once silent and still, now bustled with activity. Hangars built into lunar craters housed Earth's newest weapons. Hybrid ships combining human innovation with captured alien technology. Admiral Reed stood at the command center viewport, watching as fighters practiced formation maneuvers against the backdrop of Earth. "Final squadron reports ready, sir," announced his communications officer. Reed nodded. "And the Council fleet?" Colonel Torres approached with a tactical display. "Exactly where Krell said they would be. 3 battle groups converging on lunar orbit. They expect to catch us unprepared. Little do they know, Reed said with grim satisfaction. Launch Operation Thunderstrike. All units, commence attack. In the void between Earth and Moon, the Council fleet commander prepared for what he expected to be a decisive victory. His massive dreadnought led over 50 warships, enough firepower to level continents. Primitive defenses detected on the lunar surface, reported his sensor officer. Minimal threat assessment. The commander smiled. Begin the approach. Prepare main cannons for. Sir. Multiple signatures launching from the far side of the moon. The commander barely had time to react before human ships swarmed from hidden bases across the lunar surface. But these weren't the crude vessels humans had used before the invasion. These ships moved with impossible speed, their hulls shimmering with energy shields more advanced than the Council's own. Impossible, the commander whispered as the first wave struck his fleet's outer defenses. Human pilots flew with a recklessness no Council species would dare attempt, diving between larger ships, executing maneuvers that pushed their hybrid craft to structural limits. Where Council tactics relied on overwhelming firepower and calculated precision, humans brought chaos and unpredictability. Target their flagship, Reed ordered from the Lunar Command Center. All squadrons, implement Walker Protocol. The human ships suddenly changed formation, clustering in groups of 7. Each group synchronized their weapon systems, creating overlapping energy fields that bypassed Council shields completely. The flagship's defenses collapsed in seconds. Inside the Council dreadnought, alarms blared as systems failed throughout the ship. The commander stared in disbelief at damage reports. Retreat, he ordered, his voice hollow with shock. All ships, emergency withdrawal. But the human forces had anticipated this move. Hidden mines deployed hours earlier activated, creating disruption fields that disabled the Council ships faster than light drives. There would be no escape. On the Council homeworld, military leaders watched in horror as live data streams from their fleet went dark one by one. How can they be defeating our best commanders? Demanded General Zorv, pounding his fist on the tactical table. Their battle doctrine doesn't follow any known strategic pattern. Fleet Admiral Tarn studied the final transmissions. That's precisely why they're winning. Our tactics have been refined over thousands of years of interstellar warfare. We've optimized our approaches against hundreds of species. And, Zorv growled, and these humans don't fight like anyone we've ever encountered. Tarn replied quietly. They take insane risks. They improvise mid-battle. They sacrifice tactical advantage for unexpected strikes. It's as though they're inventing warfare all over again. Back at Lunar Command, Reed received the final reports. 27 Council ships captured intact, 18 destroyed. Only 5 had managed to escape. Casualties? He asked, bracing himself. 16 pilots lost, Torres reported, plus 12 ships with major damage. Reed closed his eyes briefly. Every loss hurt, but the victory was overwhelming. Begin Phase 2. Download all tactical data from captured vessels and prepare the jump drives. Dr. Walker looked up from his console in surprise. Sir, the jump drives aren't fully tested for human crews. No time like the present, Doctor, Reed replied. The Council thinks we're still fighting a defensive war. Time to show them how wrong they are. Reed addressed the assembled command staff, his voice firm. For too long, Earth has been reacting to their attacks. Today that changes. Today, we take the fight to their doorstep. On screens throughout the base, a new target appeared, the Galactic Council headquarters itself. The central planet of the Galactic Council, Nexus Prime, had never known war. For 12,000 years, it had served as the political heart of the interstellar government, its elegant spires and floating platforms a testament to advanced civilization. No enemy fleet had ever penetrated this deep into Council space. Until today. Alarm sirens wailed across the capital city as 7 human vessels materialized in orbit. Unlike the crude warships the Council expected, these vessels bore the sleek lines of Council technology merged with human design elements. In the Council's Grand Chamber, emergency lights pulsed as panicked representatives demanded answers. "How did they find us?" shouted one counselor. "How did they get past our defensive perimeter?" High Elder Jax struggled to maintain order, deploy all defensive forces, protect the Council at all costs. Ambassador Krell watched the chaos with mixed emotions. The humans had moved faster than even he had anticipated. His secret communications with Admiral Reed had helped make this possible, but he wondered if he had unleashed something beyond control. Aboard the lead human ship, renamed Retribution, Admiral Reed stood on the bridge as his crew executed the final approach. "Council defense grid targeting our vessels," reported Torres, now promoted to commander of the strike force. "Activate countermeasures," Reed ordered calmly. The human ships released thousands of tiny drones, each broadcasting false signatures that confused the automated defense systems. Council weapons fired frantically at phantom targets while the real ships approached unhindered. "We're receiving a transmission from the planet," Torres announced. "They're demanding our surrender." A grim smile touched Reed's lips. "Send them our response." In the Council chamber, the main display activated to show Admiral Reed's face, calm and determined. "People of the Galactic Council," he began. "I am Admiral James Reed of Earth. You came to our world uninvited. You attacked without provocation. You expected us to bow before your superior technology." Murmurs spread through the chamber as representatives recognized the human leader. "We do not come to destroy your world as you attempted to destroy ours," Reed continued. "We come to demand justice." The display split to show footage from Earth, cities in ruins, civilians wounded and dying, the aftermath of the Council's simple conquest. "Look at what you've done," Reed demanded. "Look at the suffering you caused for resources you could have obtained through trade." High Elder Jax stood, his ancient face tight with anger. "You dare lecture us? Your species is barely out of its cradle. You know nothing of galactic order." "We know enough," Reed replied evenly. "We know you attack those you consider weak. We know you take what you want by force, and now we know you can be defeated." The chamber doors burst open as human soldiers entered, accompanied by Ambassador Krell and other Council allies. The humans carried no visible weapons, but moved with absolute confidence. "This chamber is now under Earth protection," announced Reed as he himself entered, having transported down during the exchange. "No one will be harmed if you cooperate." Councillor Varix rose in outrage. "This is unprecedented. No foreign power has ever." "You set the precedent," Reed interrupted, "when you attacked Earth without declaration of war. We are simply following your example." Dr. Walker entered behind Reed, carrying a small device. "The evidence, Admiral." Reed nodded and Walker activated the device. Holographic displays appeared around the chamber, showing thousands of intercepted communications, the Council's deliberations before the invasion, their dismissal of human rights, their plans to strip Earth of resources. "For 3 decades, we monitored your transmissions," Reed explained. "We learned your languages. We studied your technology. We prepared for this day while you thought us ignorant." He walked to the center of the chamber, standing directly before High Elder Jax. "You misjudged us in every possible way," Reed said, his voice echoing through the stunned silence. "You thought us primitive because our technology was less advanced. You thought us weak because we value peace." Reed gestured to the human soldiers standing ready. "Your mistake wasn't attacking Earth. Your mistake was giving humans a reason to show you just how dangerous we can be." 6 months after humans seized the Council chambers, representatives from over 200 star systems gathered once again in the Grand Hall. The room had changed. Where once only ancient Council species held positions of authority, now humans stood among them as equals. Admiral Reed, dressed in a formal diplomatic uniform rather than military attire, took his place at the newly formed Security Council. Beside him sat Ambassador Krell, whose crucial role in aiding Earth had earned him respect from both sides. High Elder Jax had been removed from power, along with the military faction that had pushed for Earth's invasion. In his place stood Counselor Mira, her crystalline form catching the light as she called the assembly to order. "Today marks a new chapter in galactic history," she announced. "For too long, the Council operated on principles of conquest and domination. We judged civilizations by their age rather than their character." Mira gestured toward the human delegation. "Our encounter with Earth has forced us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about emerging species." Reed stood to address the chamber. Many council members still showed fear when humans approached, a reaction that bothered Reed more than he let on. He hadn't wanted to become the galaxy's boogeyman. "My people came here seeking justice, not dominance," Reed began. "We defended our world because we had to. But our goal was never to replace one form of tyranny with another." He activated a holographic display showing the new treaty. "This galactic charter of rights guarantees that no peaceful civilization, regardless of technological development, will ever again face unprovoked invasion." The chamber remained silent as Reed continued. "Earth doesn't want to rule the stars. We want to explore them. We want to learn from the species gathered here and share what we know." Dr. Walker, now head of the Interspecies Scientific Exchange, stepped forward with Commander Torres. "Already our cooperation has produced remarkable advances," Walker explained. "Human creativity combined with Council technical knowledge has solved problems neither of us could address alone." Torres activated a different display showing joint human-alien security forces, and our combined defense fleets have already prevented 3 potential conflicts in disputed systems. Not everyone welcomed the changes. A small faction of Council representatives sat in stony silence, their disapproval evident. Leading them was Councillor Varix, who had survived the political purge but lost much of his influence. "The humans speak of peace while holding weapons to our throats," Varix muttered to his allies. "They conquered our capital in a single day. How can we trust them?" Ambassador Krell overheard and turned toward the dissenters. "They conquered our capital and then did what no Council species would have done. They showed mercy. They sought justice, not revenge." Krell addressed the entire assembly. "I have worked closely with humans since the conflict ended. Their capacity for forgiveness is as remarkable as their capacity for war. They could have destroyed us. Instead, they offered partnership." Reed nodded gratefully to Krell before continuing his address. "Earth has much to learn about galactic politics and customs. We will make mistakes, but we promise this: we will never use our strength to bully the weak. We will never judge a species solely by its age or technology." He looked directly at the former conquerors. "We know what it means to be underestimated. We won't make the same mistake." As the session concluded, Reed stood with Torres and Walker on a balcony overlooking the capital city. The planet's 3 moons were rising, casting multiple shadows across the alien landscape. "Did you ever imagine we'd end up here?" Torres asked, gazing at the unfamiliar stars. Reed shook his head. "I just wanted to save Earth. I never planned to reshape galactic politics." Walker smiled. "That's why it worked. Other species have conquered through ambition. We did it through necessity." Reed watched ships from dozens of worlds moving through the evening sky, trade vessels, diplomatic shuttles, and joint security patrols. "Let's make sure we never become what we defeated," he said quietly. "Earth defended itself against an unjust attack. But history is written by the victors. In 100 years, will they remember us as liberators or conquerors?" Torres placed a hand on his shoulder. "That's up to us, Admiral. That's up to us."